Hello, everyone. Ryan, Allison, and I did our presentation on discrete trial training. So I'm going to talk you through our presentation, and we do have a video at the end that you can view. The discrete trial training is a teaching method. It uses simple and structured steps. It's where larger skills are broken down and taught one step at a time. And it's a series of short and repeated teaching attempts, and they follow kind of the same process each time. So there's the antecedent, which is the direction given. There's the prompt, which is used until no longer needed, a response from the student, and then a consequence for correct or incorrect response. And then there's an intertrial interval. These are the seconds between the end of one trial and the start of the next trial. So this entire cycle constitutes one trial. The foundational tenets, it provides a clear and repeated strategy for autistic students who do not learn in the same way as their non-autistic peers. It keeps teaching trials short and allows for numerous repeated learning opportunities. It allows for individualization for each child, and the consistent format provides clarity for the child. Trials are scripted so that each one is run in the exact same way, so we can easily identify which part is not working and change it. For the theoretical foundation, it's used for learners who need to learn a skill via small, repeated steps. It provides planned antecedents and consequences in order to promote communication, adaptive behavior, social play, and cognitive skills. It also reduces interfering behaviors. It targets students who are early childhood and/or elementary at all ability levels. It's used the most with those younger students, 2 to 9 years. This is the 3 major steps to the discrete trial training, where all of those kind of steps earlier are embedded into that constitute one cycle. So you see the discriminative stimulus, the response or prompt, and then the reinforcement or correction. So first we'll talk about the discriminative stimulus. This is the instruction that's given to a child. So a child might be asked to touch the blue block. It's usually an oral instruction. It could be nonverbal. You might show a picture to the student rather than give them oral instructions. The guidelines for the discriminative stimulus are that it's clear and consistent wording, it's free of any extraneous information, and it's delivered in a voice slightly louder than your normal speaking tone. So it might sound like, touch the blue block. The second part is response or prompting. This is what the teacher determines based upon student response. So prompts should be given immediately after giving the SD, the discriminative stimulus. These prompts will gradually be removed once the teacher is sure the response has been learned. So for example, if I say to a student, touch the blue block, I would give the prompt of maybe taking the student's hand and gently moving it to the blue block. That might be my prompt. I would only do that when the student needs it. The third part is reinforcement or correction. This immediately follows the student response. The reinforcement or correction is also known as, the reinforcement is also known as a reward. It's given following a correct response. The key points are to maximize the effectiveness. It's given immediately. It's given whether student answers correctly independently or with a prompt. So even if I need to move that student's hand over, I'm still going to give reinforcement to that student. It's given in an enthusiastic and involved manner, and varied rewards are important. So it's not always the same way. Sometimes you might give a toy that does something interesting for the student. Sometimes you might laugh or celebrate with the student, but to vary that reinforcement. If a correction is needed, it's given following an incorrect response. So one way is to give an informational no, which is responding with no in a neutral voice tone and then repeating the discriminative stimulus with an immediate prompt. So I might say, no, touch the blue block, and then move the hand to the blue block. The second way to do a correction is errorless learning correction, which is where there's a pause without saying no at all. So instead of saying no, the teacher might pause and then repeat the SD with the prompt of moving the hand to the student's block. So here is a graphic that just shows the review of the discrete trial training. Again, the SD or the instruction is given. A prompt is provided if needed, otherwise we wait for student response. And then reinforcement or correction is provided. Again, reinforcement if the student does it correctly, even if we're prompting with them, or a correction with either a no or a silent pause if they did it incorrectly, followed by another direction and an immediate prompt. The empirical support for discrete trial training, it's a highly structured training technique that involves a trainer instructing an individual on the autism spectrum. The main goal of the discrete trial training is to teach the learner how to pay attention and how to communicate. Peer-reviewed research on this topic, this method has been around since the late 60s, early 70s. It's identified more than 50 scientific studies of discrete trial training used as standalone technique for people on the autism spectrum, published in peer-reviewed journals. And there's a link here for peer-reviewed articles that you can check out as well. The evaluation of the discrete trial training method is commonly stated to be more useful as part of a broader program of intervention. So maybe one piece of our larger program. It meets the evidence-based practice criteria within the early childhood and elementary age groups for promoting the development of that communication or language, adaptive behavior, cognitive academic skills, social and play skills, and for reducing those interfering behaviors. So the controversies or criticisms for this method, the discrete trial training, sometimes it led to child failure to generalize newly learned skills across multiple environments and circumstances. So maybe the child could do it there in the moment with the direction in the prompt, but could not apply that in other situations. The presence of escape or avoidance, challenging behaviors, lack of spontaneity. It does follow a pretty stringent cycle. And then overdependence on prompts, using those prompts too quickly or having students become dependent on those prompts rather than trying it independently. Below are some critiques from some professional or advocacy groups. So you can click on those links to check those out. And then finally, here is a link to a video of some actual examples of the discrete trial training being used with students with autism. So you can go ahead and watch that and take a look at this method in action. Thank you, everyone.